can just be vibrant all the way through? How do we deal with our challenges? How do we face awkward conversations? Those conversations you don't really want to have with people because you're not sure if it's genuine or, if it's just curiosity to brew gossip. We just want to know how do we maneuver through the BS? And I believe Lana's going to give us those answers. She's going to shape us in the right way so that we can do great things in the world. I'm just, come on, each one teach one, each one reach one, and we're going to do all of that. Hello, Dark, you wild vibes. I like that name, Dark, you wild vibes. I wonder how you say that. Welcome, welcome. Share this live with your friends, with your family, with your coworkers. Let them know that Pink Talks is happening right here on Franchisee NYC with Rebel Jones and Lana, our guest tonight. So let's get into it. Actually, what's up, Facebook family? I'm sorry, I have a habit of not looking over my left shoulder. But what's up, everyone? It's 9:00 p.m. As I promised, we'll be starting on time. There's no such thing as CP time. It's just peak time, and that time is right now on Franchising NYC, and I'm your host, Rebel Jones. Now, tonight it's a little unique because we're not just interviewing a singer or a rapper or a poet. We're interviewing another multi-disciplined artist, and she is phenomenal at everything that she does, and she got her credentials up there. Okay, she ain't playing with y'all. She came to win, to slay, and absolutely to rise. And because of that, we decided to interview Lana Patel. Now, I hope I pronounced her last name right. But let's get into a little bit of her background before we bring her here on our wonderful live franchising NYC. She is an Indo-Afro-Caribbean trans woman, and she advocates for equality of trans lives and the intersection of being LGBTQ, POC, and immigration. This woman has stepped her whole game up when she decided to do her commercials and her advertisements with Pantene. That's right, she's all to all that beauty, but beauty from the heart. And tonight we're going to get into some questions about how we can be transparent more often in this industry. So when you're ready, Lana, please send that request. We're excited and ready to get into some more questions and details about the industry. When you're ready, honey, I'm ready. She's already here on Facebook Live. What's up, Facebook family? What's up, everyone watching? Thank y'all so much for being consistent and coming in to watch us here on live. I'm super, super grateful for you all watching. Cha-cha-cha. And if you're not already following us at Pink NYC, make sure you go do that as well after this live. Definitely go watch us at Pink NYC. Make sure you follow your girl too. Don't be a hater player, all right? What's that player? Lana, and I accept. Welcome.
Hi, Rebel.
Hi, Lana. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm blessed and highly favored. Absolutely. Yes. So welcome to Pink Talks here in Franchising NYC. We're super grateful that you said yes to doing an interview with us because we want to know how you became this megastar as you are. All right. Welcome, everyone, joining in. This is Lana. Lana, did I pronounce your last name correctly?
Yes.
Okay, Lana Patel. Oh, I said it right. I was a little nervous.
It's a pretty easy one to.
Yeah. Now, in your introduction, we talked about how you are a singer, how you are a media host, and we just want to learn a little bit more about you. Can you tell us, how did you get into media production?
That just kind of happened, honestly. I always had like a dream of like getting involved with entertainment, and I moved to California about 4 years ago, and that was a dream of mine to get involved. And so I don't know, it's just like one thing after another. I found myself going not once, twice, but 3 times for central casting to audition to be hired on as background talent. And it was a whole situation. But I finally ended up working with them. I got to get a taste of like what it's like to work in like Hollywood and background and be on set. And so that all just kind of led me to where I am now and being able to do the things that I get to do. But yeah, I would love this kind of divine intervention. Honestly, I think it was just something that just happened, something that I wanted, and something that just kind of fell in my lap. But I'm so grateful for it because I wanted it so bad, and I owe a lot to like manifestation and like The Secret and those type of things, like willing something, wanting it, praying, and seeing it come to fruition.
Yes. Tell us, I mean, we have to highlight the fact that you are a trans woman because it means a lot to our community as well as to transition for you. And if you don't mind sharing, why did you decide to go through that transition?
Yeah. So shout out to everybody. I just saw Cleo there. Hey everyone. Start trickling in.
Yes.
So yeah, for me, I always felt like a girl. And so that dysphoria always kind of stayed with me throughout my life. I think as early as 3 years old, I came out and said I was a girl. And yeah, that feeling just always was there. And I knew that the change wouldn't be me feeling different. The change would be me putting in the work to match and align like my body with my mind. I thought as a kid, oh, puberty is going to hit. I'm going to turn 15. I'm going to be normal. Puberty hit. I turned 15. I still like boys. I still feel like a girl. And so I knew that for me, in order to live a leading life, to live a healthy life, to have some type of happiness, I had to go through a medical transition. And so that's kind of how I started. At 17, I decided to make that journey, and I don't regret it. I'm so glad I took that route. Yeah.
Yes. So while you were going through this transition and becoming in alignment physically with your internal cosmo, when did you start singing and dancing?
Sorry, I had to take a little.
It's okay. It's okay, girl. I done drank all my juice. I ain't got my juice.
Right. I'm locked and loaded. I have my water, have my alkaline water.
That's right.
I have my smoothie. I'm fasting. So today's the last day of my fast.
Okay.
But I've been fasting for the last month.
Woo!
I'm feeling good.
That's a big
nice
deal.
Special fast. I have my dry fruits and nuts. So I'll be munching on that. Yeah. So music and dance and the arts kind of just came naturally. Like I always had an affinity for the art. Like there was never a time in my life where I did not feel musically inclined, that I, you know, having parents with such rich cultural diversity, my mother being Jamaican and Punjabi, my father being Gujarati and Trinidadian, and having such rich culture and music and dance be so heavily influenced in the culture. It's like Jamaicans have dancehall culture, Trinis have, you know, there's soca, there's calypso, there's carnival. We love a fete and a lime. And, you know, in Punjab, we're all about Bhangra. And then in Gujarat, we're about Garba and Bras. So I just came from like people that were so heavily influenced by music and by dance. And I just felt like that was kind of embedded in my DNA and something that was kind of destined for me. But then music, I don't know. I just remember opening my mouth, hearing Christina Aguilera songs and Brandy and Celine Dion and all these Whitney Houston and Mary J. Blige, and knowing like, I love this song. So I sang along with it, and I'm like, oh, wait, I I guess I can kind of sing. Okay. Okay.
Yes.
And that's kind of how that started. So, being from these folks, these people, respectable things to do, I guess, within the culture is to get a education, get a noble position, job, title. And so my parents definitely didn't really encourage me to follow the arts and follow my dreams. They always kind of said, no, you can do that on the side. That's a little hobby. Like, no, get an education. You're so smart. Don't, you know. But I listened to myself, and I followed my dream.
Yes.
And that led me to where I am now as a person and as a woman and within my career. I was always the rebel of the family, always the black sheep. I was just like, I'm gonna do me. Like,
Yes.
you're telling me to wait till I'm done with school to transition. You know, I was 18 at the time. I said, I want a doctorate. You know, I was double majoring in music and psychology at Florida State University. And I knew that it would probably be 10 years before I graduate with my doctorate in psychology and I go to med school and I'm a psychiatrist and all of these things. It's going to be a while. So why am I going to wait to start transition then when I'm already doing it now? Why should I take a break? And I know what testosterone does to the body. I know the changes that are going to occur. Why not be proactive and stop it and live a true, authentic life now? And so, you know, I was steadfast. I made this happen. And, you know, the arts and music kind of just followed behind it. So I'm very grateful for, you know, every opportunity that I've been given and just like how the universe has kind of blessed me. So.
Absolutely. And totally, completely, 100%. We're blessed to just have your soul present. And when you're happy, I believe everyone around you will be happy as well. So I'm glad that you've made a decision for yourself about what makes you happy. Now, speaking about happiness, what are some challenges that you had to face as you were launching your career as a trans woman?
Oh, where do we start? Oh man, you know, there was a lot of challenges because so I started my transition in the South. I was in Florida. I was in Polk County, Florida, and I speak about this because it was a very rural, very ultra conservative, reformative type of place. And at 16 years old, I made the decision that I want to do this. I want to transition. And I went to 3 different doctors asking for help, and all of them turned me away and said, no, I do not feel comfortable giving a 16-year-old boy female hormones. I give this to my female clients. Maybe you can go to Tampa or Miami where they do that there. 16 years old, don't have a driver's license, don't have a car, and there's no way I'm going to jump in some type of ride, go 5 hours south to Miami and explore the streets looking for these hormones that she's speaking of.
Right.
And so I didn't get the resources. But I think all of those challenges and those hardships kind of thickened my skin. They helped to strengthen me and they've made me more resilient. But I've also just been a very tenacious person. And I've been the type of person, like, if you close the door in my face, I am going through the back. And if the back is closed, I'm going through the cellar, I'm going through the chimney, I'm going through the window, but I'm going to find a way.
Yes.
And I've always been that type of person. Like, if you tell me no, it makes me want it more. And so when it comes to my career and getting things started, I've always just been that person that felt like, no, you cannot block my blessings. Like, what is for me is going to be for me. Yes. And I'm going to see this through. And so a lot of the challenges I faced came with discrimination because I was trans, but there was also, you know, barriers being a Black person, being a person of color. And I think that all plays into the various intersections and trying to make something of myself, being a woman, being a trans woman, being a Black woman, you know, being a Black trans woman, and what that all looks like and means.
Yeah.
And trying to carve a niche for myself within like South Asian communities and in that market, and finding a voice for myself in the Black community, and you know, finding a voice for myself within the trans community, and breaking outside of the mold, because a lot of us, at least when I was transitioning and coming up back in 2006, I didn't get to see advocates. I didn't get to see like voices. There weren't prolific figures and names.
Right.
A lot of the girls were just, you know, involved with sex work. Nothing wrong with that, but it was a totally different culture. And so to be in a place now where we have the ability to have agency over our lives and to figure out what works best for us has been incredible. And I think it's been very, it's been a very like instrumental part of my journey and my transition, for sure.
Yeah. You know, some people might feel as though the lines have been blurred within communities in the sense of understanding oneself and being able to fit in within your social group. How have you found that community for yourself, and how have you defined your lines in various communities, whether that be heterosexual or other?
Okay. Thinking cat. So, how have I like been able to find community or
Yes.
like define myself in the community?
Yes.
I think a lot of things just kind of fell into place. So, you know, I started in 2006. I met my very first friend who was a trans woman going through the trans experience in 2 years into my transition. But prior to that, I'd never been around other trans folks. It was always, you know, cisgender folks. I didn't meet like people from the LGBT community until college. And we didn't have community where I lived in Polk County. So good old Polk County, we didn't have an LGBT center. We didn't have Pride. We didn't have really anything. And so the World Wide Web was like my way of getting connected to folks. And that's how I met my very first trans friend, who became my roommate. And she was so instrumental in a section of my life where it was very dismal. So I met her, and then I met another trans woman also through the World Wide Web. And then she introduced me to other trans women in the area. So she was in Orlando, and I got to meet a lot of the other Orlando women and get involved with like the club scene and kind of get to know people a little bit more. But it just kind of sparked from there. Currently, a lot of community that I have is like through online, Instagram and things like that, but also through just like local community as well. So, yeah. Like,
so that's awesome. I mean, just going through those experiences and finding people, I know that oftentimes I've heard that it can be really challenging to just know, you know, who to mingle with. I want to know, because you've known at a really young age who you were or who you are today. How do you? What's your mission statement? Like, what would you say to the youth that may be struggling just identifying who they are outside of their sexuality?
right. Be strong, be brave, be resilient. I know that's easier said than done, but I've been that kid. I've been that person that struggled, that had the hardships. Like, I didn't come from a privileged family. You know, I'm first generation American. My family came here to provide a better life for me and for, you know, the family. And so we had to deal with being immigrants and being Black in America and then dealing with gender identity and gender dysphoria and body dysmorphia and angst and adolescence. And so I know what that's like, and suffering from depression and wanting to become this person, but not sure if you can become this person because the world is telling you that it's not possible. Your family's telling you that it's not possible. And so that gets in your head and you're like, I don't know if this is tangible. I don't know if I can actually make that first step. So I would say, don't give up. Do not give up hope. Even when it looks dismal, even when it looks like there's no way to continue, there's always a way. And I feel like whenever you're at rock bottom, the only way to go is up.
Yeah.
And so I think it's really important that people always hold on to that, like one glimmer of hope, and understand that there's opportunity to rise from that. So, yeah.
Yes, that's awesome. That's awesome. That's really great advice. What's up, everyone? Thank you for tuning in. You're watching Pink Talks here on Find Your ID NYC with your one and only goddess, Rebel Jones, and the wonderful and beautiful Lana Patel. I wanted to make sure I did not get that last name wrong, so I paused for a really long time. We are talking about just being encouraged and fighting through your challenges with hope. And we're also talking about what it was like for Lana to transition from being who she is on the inside and transitioning and showing that on the outside so that we all can see the beautiful gem that she truly is. Okay. Now, with everything that you're doing, what brings you the most joy? Is it singing? Is it media hosting? And let's talk about media hosting as well, because we know that you're a host and we want to know where and what and how that came about.
Yeah, I get to do some hosting through work, which is exciting. I've had the opportunity to like host a couple conversations with some of my friends. Orange County, Long Beach, LA, like having a lot of these conversations been really amazing, and being able to kind of moderate a lot of conversation. I think what gives me the most joy, what gives me the most pleasure? I think all of it, I think all of it is just incredible to be able to have this opportunity, because I never saw this for myself. Like when I look back at 16-year-old me, getting the door slammed in my face, telling me like, you can't do hormones, you cannot transition. What do you think you're doing? Like, there's no way that you will even make it far trying to be a girl, and being told I would be ugly, and being told that I would need to do all of these things in order to be accepted and be presentable. So for me to be here now is like this incredible dream come true. It's like me talking back to 16-year-old me and saying, girl, we did it. Like, we made it. So I think all of it just gives me joy, just knowing that I have the opportunity to find my own success, and to live in my truth and be given opportunity, because I never thought this was possible. Like, I came from seeing trans people on Ricky Lake and Jenny Jones that were somewhat respectable, but then we were on Maury holding up signs, the audience yelling, "That's a man." We were on Jerry Springer telling our lover that we're trans, getting our wig snatched and getting on stage while the audience is yelling, "Go Jerry, Jerry!" And cops, seeing trans women who were doing sex work get arrested for prostitution. And so I didn't have like positive role models growing up. I didn't have anything to say like, girl, you can do it. Like, you can make it. You want an opportunity to like be in the limelight, or to work in LA or in Hollywood, or be known on social media for something positive, something outside of like sex work. That was like just a dream. And
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Well, Lana, what is it? Why do trans women end up in that kind of field of work?
Sex work
Yeah.
is easy money. It is easy
Mm-hmm.
money. It's the oldest profession in the book. And yeah, those are the main things. And
Mm-hmm.
also, you know, when I started my transition, healthcare looked different, laws looked different. So
Mm.
we didn't have, at least in Florida, healthcare protection. Insurance was, you know, if you could get insurance, if you could be on your parents' insurance until you were 25, 26, or if you could get a job that gave you insurance, but then there was an issue with employment. That's another reason why trans women do sex work, because there was a scarcity of jobs that and careers that would hire you. Depending on where you were in your transition, how you looked, how you presented to the world, um, you could easily be discriminated against. Like they would not give you the opportunity to get your foot in the door. So that was also like a very big barrier. And a lot of trans women turn to sex work because they have a medical transition to support. They have a financial um, kind of debt that's on them that they need to now go and support to back. And how do you then, hey, Dr. Ali, how do you then finance this, right? We're looking at breast augmentation, $5,000. Well, at the time in Florida, $5,000. You want facial feminization surgery, that was like $30,000. You want vaginoplasty, that was like $20,000. So there was so like, and that was just like minimum, like just so that you could feel aligned in your body, and be able to navigate the world and not be judged or clocked or read for trans. And so if you're looking at this bill, you're like, wait, 30,000 and then 20,000 and then 5,000. How am I going to come up with this money? Like, I don't have insurance. I'm trying to get a job. They're denying me a job at McDonald's. How am I going to make this happen? And so that's why a lot of, you know, trans women turn to sex work, because they don't have these opportunities, because the world was denying them these things. I mean, things are a lot better now. Like I said, I started in 2006,
Mm-hmm.
but even now, you know, there's trans women doing sex work because it is an easier way to get money. It's a faster way. I mean, easy, I guess. But you can get a lot of money faster to get the things that you need.
I see.
And and then it also becomes a tough place to be in, because there are some trans women who want to transition out of sex work, but it becomes a thing of how do you do that successfully to where you can make the same amount of money, if not something close to it, because you get accustomed to a certain lifestyle, you'll get accustomed to making a certain amount of money. And how do you then go from making, I don't know, let's say 70 to like 70,000 to six figures, and then you turn around and work like 40,000 a year or less? That's like a huge jump.
That
So
is.
that's tough. It's like, do I want to give that up? Like, do I want to pay Uncle Sam? Do I want to, you know, struggle just so I can say I have a job, just to get a
Right.
paycheck? Like, you know, I'm making in a week from a paycheck what I can make in a day. So that's also another struggle, I think, for a lot of trans women.
Yeah. Well, as an advocate for trans women, what would you say are some of the misconceptions that people who just pretty much are not a part of your world, not aware of the transitioning?
So advice I would give to trans women?
Well, not so much of advice, but what are some of the misconceptions that someone like myself, maybe who is in this world of heterosexuality, and I hear about it, you know, and most of the time when I am hearing about it, it's not always positive. Sometimes it's really negative. You know, it's in when it comes to religion, a lot of people in, you know, in church have something negative to say regarding demonic energies, or it's not your spirit, it's someone else's spirit on you, or something else that's kind of causing this person to feel a way about themselves that isn't real to how they were born. What is that experience, for you? What was that like? And what do you say to that?
Ooh. So that's an interesting one. So my family, we're all over the gambit, right? I have family members that are Hindu. I have family members that are Muslim. I have family members that are Christian, Catholic. I think those are the four main religions. But I definitely had the biggest issues with Christianity, Christian relatives, Christian family, and I think, and I had one uncle that was Muslim, and he was, he'd always like, I don't know, we go toe to toe because he was one of those people that like, he felt like he was the Dundada. Like he knew everything. He knew, like, he was one of those people that was like heavy on conversion. He's like, no. We're not doing Hinduism. We're not doing Catholicism, Catholicism. We're not doing Christianity. That's all wrong. You need to be Muslim. And so he would kind of push that. And then he rejected the idea of being a part of the LGBT community. He thought that was evil, the devil. And then my Christian relatives were the same. And, they were trying to force me into the Christian religion and going to church and getting saved and getting baptized. And it wasn't for me. But I think when I think of that, the spirits and all that stuff, I had a situation where, hi Lex, hi everyone. I was dating this guy back in the day. I dated this Dominican guy, and he was also first generation American. And so it was his mom and his sisters, and I think they all like came from DR. And his mom was Christian, and she was very religious, and we were dating for some time. So this is early in my transition. I didn't like this,
Mm-hmm.
So he took me out on a date. We went to the mall. We went to have dinner. We went to a movie. And he took pictures of me on his camera, and he left this old school cameras. So he left the camera in the glove compartment of his car. So we were walking through the mall, and I guess his aunt or a friend of his mom saw us, told the mom. Mom went in his car, found the camera, went through the camera, confronted him, and was like, this is what you like? This is what you're dating? And she like insulted me. She was calling me it. And she said I was ugly, I was hideous, and could you bring this to your father? Can you bring this to your grandmother? Like, what are you doing? And she blamed herself, and she said the pastor told me like to be careful because there's probably evil spirits and all these things happening. And she was saying that she should have never introduced the computer and the TV to the home because they introduced evil spirits into the home, and that influenced her son. And then she said that I was filled with evil spirits. Like I was a devil playing tricks on him and trying to lure him and tempt him. And it just was super crazy. And so I remember that story, and it was a couple of days before, like, I had a moment to kind of sit with myself and kind of navigate that.
Mm-hmm.
And I cried for like 2 days at least. And I just felt so horrible. I was like, what if that's true? What if I am all these things, And I felt so bad, and I didn't want to pursue things with him anymore because I didn't want to take him from his family. And I was just afraid of like, I don't know. But I mean, it took some time to navigate that. Honestly, I think I'm Hindu, Hindu faith, practicing and everything. I know navigating like somewhat of Christianity. I know a little bit of Islam. I've dated someone that was Muslim, and I know a little bit of Catholicism. But I would just say that, if we are practicing any faith religion, there is a God that is, or gods that are all seeing, all knowing, all loving, and that we were created to radiate love and to emanate love and to just be beautiful beings in God's image. And so I think that who we are as people in our essence is all part of the greater plan. And I don't think if there is this powerful God or gods out there, that they would have created people to have the feelings that we have, to go through these experiences. There's millions of people in the LGBT, or probably even billions of people in the LGBTQ community. There are, what, I think 8 billion people on the planet. So, with that being said, there's a lot of people that are identified within the community. I doubt that, this loving being that we worship, that we pray to, is going to turn around and punish us and give us these identities that are so wrong. And so I think for me, it was a lot of like unlearning stuff and pushing through and navigating and coming to terms with, no, I can be religious, I can be spiritual, I can love God and God can love me, and I can have a relationship with, God or the creator, the gods, but also love who I love and feel how I feel. But that's been a journey that I've had to kind of navigate. Like I said, I had a partner who was Muslim, and helping him navigate that. Him being a cisgender male that was attracted to a trans woman, that was in a relationship with a trans woman, navigating his identity, finding support and community. And then like I have other friends who are Christian and things like that. So it's an uphill battle. It's a journey. I can't speak for everyone. I definitely can't give advice to everyone and everything as far as religion and how to navigate that. I've just kind of found ways to navigate it the best way that I know how.
Yeah.
But yeah, just like love yourself and understand, like, it's like there's just so much. I mean, within Christianity, they speak of eunuchs. They speak of people that were eunuchs by man, by God, and that became eunuchs themselves. And I know there's a verse in the Bible that says, those who are eunuchs will be treated as sons and daughters, and they will get reward in the afterlife, like in heaven. And so that was also comforting for me when I was having these conversations with Christian folk, like give them the word so that they understand. Within Hinduism, I mean, there's gods that have female, that are male, that are have female, like a female duality, or there's just so much of a spectrum that was available way before colonialism kind of got introduced to our lives. So, yeah.
There's a whole understanding about spirit before, like you said, before colonialism and civilization, to one group of people's mindset have taken over. And
Right.
so there's a portion of it that I do understand and that I do respect. For me personally, even when it comes down to whether it's a heterosexual person, I'm like, what you do behind closed doors is your business. I don't even feel like that should be exploited. But ever since it has been, it's like, it's harder for people who love themselves and also want to change whatever it is that they see within them on their outside of their body to match what they feel on the inside. It seems like that has also been exploited to a degree where it's like, now people have to fight for their voices versus just being heard by those that they care and love. But when you talk about, God being all seeing and all loving and unconditionally just benevolent in its own right, how do you see that as God creating you from the womb and then you making that transition? Like, do you think that there's some sort of misunderstanding when people are saying, in religious specifically, are saying, well, God made you, for example, for myself, God made you a woman, Rebel. Why would you want to be a man? If God loves you, so God created you the way God makes no mistakes. What would be your comment to that specifically?
Yeah, for me, I think that this is just my belief, but I believe that we kind of know what we're getting ourselves into. Like the spirit knows what it's going to do before it gets into the body. That's at least my belief. So I believe that before we come on this earth, before we come into existence, we know who our parents are. We know the maternal, the paternal. We understand the journey. We know the blueprint, and so we get into this knowing the hardship. I mean, as a Hindu, a lot of things are from karmic deeds from a past life. It's also just trying to achieve moksha. It's trying to liberate myself. It's something that I need to learn in this lifetime. But I think for those outside of Hinduism, that we choose this life before we get to it because there's something that we need to learn. And to be a trans person, I think, is such a powerful learning experience. There's so much to learn and unlearn because there's so much that comes with that. And like for me to be this person, to have my intersectionality and to navigate the world as a trans woman of color, knowing what's happening in the world, I attest that to a greater plan that maybe I'm not cognitive of right now in this life, but it was something that I've kind of gone into knowing that like hardship is going to be my pathway to peace, that I need to go through these things to get to the other side. There is something about the human experience that I need to navigate, and I'm not going to get these learnings. I'm not going to be taught these things without this experience. So
sometimes, are you saying that sometimes the risk that we take in our lives is reflective of the risk we probably didn't take in our past lives?
As far as Hinduism goes, I believe a lot of the times when we come back, we reincarnated. So within Christianity, you want moksha, you want to be liberated, you want to release your soul, you don't want to keep reincarnating. But when you do come back, it's because there's something that you need to learn. There's a lesson. And sometimes you were a not so great person in your past life. So now you're coming back to struggle, right? And so you need to understand what that struggle is like this time around so that the next life, or maybe this will be your last time on the circle of life. Yeah, so I think that, there's a lesson to be learned. I don't know what I was doing before. Maybe, I could have been a queen somewhere, right? And it's like, okay, well, maybe you weren't doing all that great. Maybe you weren't the best for your people. So you come back.
Like, maybe you was just eating way too much and having your servants doing way too much work. I'm gonna have to.
Right. And they're like, okay, girl, bet. Okay, we got you.
Right.
We got you. So next life, you're gonna go through some things. You're gonna understand the struggle. And so yeah. So I'm hoping, like, I learned everything.
Right. Me too. I'm tired.
Right. So I'm like, oh, let's hope. But yeah, I'm very, I have my moments where it's a struggle. You know, there's days where you're down and out, or like you just beat yourself up, or you look in the mirror and you don't see yourself reflected. Like I look in the mirror and I'm like, "Ugh, I don't like what I see today," or I'm just down on myself, or I'm worried about the future,
Yeah.
or I doubt myself. But I
get
think, yeah, but I think when I look back, like for me, I always like to, I talk about the greater plan, but having a testimony is a sign that I've been through things. I've gone through the test. So now there's a testimony. I can speak about those trials and tribulations that I've been through. But when I look back on the last 14 years of my life, being a woman, going through this transition, I see that every little thing led me to where I am now. And I'm so appreciative of where I am now, what I have now because of the past. And I look back on my grandparents, I look back on my parents and their struggles and their journeys, and to be the person that I am today, you know, knowing like how hard my grandparents fought so that they could fall in love and be married in the 50s, you know, like this black and white biracial, you know, Jamaican woman and this Indian man, like the fifth, you know, they had a love, they had a
lot
whole
of outer pressures. Yeah.
right,
Outside pressures.
and to live their best life like in the 1930s, 40s, 50s, to be able to have, you know, a love marriage, because especially in the 50s, I mean, my grandmother is Indian, and so, you know, arranged marriage is very much a thing. And for you to not only like defy an arranged marriage, but marry a black woman, that was huge. And so when I look back at their journey and what they went to be where they are, to have children, you know, for my mom to be the youngest one, for my mom to then also have a love marriage, fall in love with my father, who also was not, you know, from the same. He was from a different island. You know, the Indian culture was from a different state. And so all of these things, all this history kind of leads me to where I am, and to live my life authentically, and to look back on all their trials and tribulations and look back on mine. And I can sit soundly within myself today.
Right.
And so that helps me on those days where it's like, you know, not feeling my best, but
I'm gonna power through it.
power through it, right?
Yes, ma'am.
My ancestors allowed me to be where I am now, right? I'm my ancestors' wildest dreams.
Yes.
And knowing that I came from people that were indentured servants, and I came from slaves, and I came from people that fought hard to come to this country so they can provide a life for themselves, you know, and a life for me is like incredible.
That is incredible just to hear your story. I think I mostly connect with people based on the eye contact and the conversation more than I'm trying to identify what their sexual genitals are. And I think that's problematic. And if we don't start seeing that as problematic, then overall we're going to constantly run into this brick wall of confusion. You know, walking on the street, is that a woman, is that a man? That's like none of your business. Is that a good-hearted person? You know, is that a killer? You know, because there are crazy people who, you know, kept whatever it is that they wanted to identify with. Like, it got so real, my earphone popped out. But it's true, right? So there are people in the world who are, and I'm gonna speak on it. There are pedophiles, there are murderers, and they on the inside, they're on the outside, inside, they're living that out, and we can't let that pass by because it's hurting people more than it's doing good. But for someone like your wonderful self that's saying, "Hey, I just want to look in the mirror and feel good about what I'm thinking about. Like, I want it to match. I'm just trying to match the socks. Like, I don't want to be walking around with mismatched socks, you know?" And so when you make that decision for yourself, that's completely different. But yet it's, it's so much spotlight on it. Again, identifying with the person's heart is more important than their genitals. If you're not trying to have a baby with them, I think you just need to mind your business. Like at that point, like you know what I mean. But overall, you know, before we end it, I want to definitely say to everyone that's watching, send your questions in. We want to make sure we answer your questions before we end this live. And also, Lana, tell us what is the conversations like on your podcast? Because I know that you're a host on there as well. Is it a podcast or did I get that wrong? You're
talk show.
Talk show. Pardon me. You're a talk show host, and you all talk about just supporting the trans women and supporting the LGBTQ. What are some of the conversations that like hit hard for you all?
Yeah, so it's different conversations each episode. We are on a bit of a hiatus. I'm looking forward to getting back on chat with the girls when things calm down. But we have been talking about doing a podcast style through Zoom in the meantime, in the meanwhile, as Jan Levin says.
Yes.
But we definitely want to continue conversation and just talk about like the struggle now, like the Black Lives Matter movement. We want to talk about COVID. We want to talk about what just happened in Hollywood with the 3 trans women and just like various current events. But we kind of go over everything under the gambit. And I think that's the beauty of the show and the fact that, you know, we have 5 incredible trans women to be able to sit and have these conversations. It's almost like the View. I say
Yes.
The View with like trans women, and yeah, I miss my sisters, and I can't wait to get back on set and to continue these conversations.
Well, how can we support you is my next question.
Yeah, like, comment, and subscribe. No.
Like, comment, and subscribe. Make sure you add her on Facebook. Make sure you follow her on Instagram. And make sure, most importantly, you continue to show her love by looking at all of her work. We know that you are a Pantene model. Is that correct?
Yeah, I had the pleasure of working with Pantene.
Yes.
So stay tuned.
Fenty, holla at her. Fenty, the lip bar. Holla at Lana. Come on, she's killing the look. Let's not bypass this live and not look at how gorgeous you look, okay? Beautiful, high cheekbone. I'm gonna get like, you gotta stay smiling.
Thank you.
You know? Absolutely. Absolutely. Does anyone have any questions before we close out this live with beautiful Lana? Anyone? I know you guys had a lot of great comments. I see wonderful comments here. So a lot of people are saying hi. Someone did ask, do you have any advice for friends or family that's not supporting, like those who are going through the transition but don't have that support?
Yeah, there's some incredible places that you can go. Like there's an app called Solace, Solace. They have incredible information for the community. You can go on there. There's PFLAG. PFLAG has incredible information for parents. It originally was called Parents, Friends of Lesbian and Gay, but I mean, you know, we have an umbrella now. But that's another really great resource. Your local LGBT centers, see what they have as far as trans resources. Sometimes they have support groups. Like I know there's one that happens in Orange County, and they have a support group just for family and loved ones of trans folk. And then Instagram, like the World Wide Web, like there is a wealth of information on here. And yeah, there's so much.
Absolutely. I have a final question. It's really more so towards family raising their children. And as representation continues to grow, what do you say to those parents who are raising like their daughters and sons, or specifically their sons who might, you know, just see trans women on television, and those parents might be afraid, like, listen, I don't want to put any ideas in my son's head, but at the same time, you know, I can want something for my son, but that's necessarily that's what he wants. But what do you say to those parents that are afraid of the subliminal messages that's in media in general?
Your fears are understandable to a degree. There is an agenda that happens with a lot of conservatives. And they try to say, oh, this is an agenda of the left, right? This is the liberal party trying to have this trans agenda. No, trans people have always been around since the very beginning. And, you know, whether we had access to hormones or clothing, or we can grow our hair out, or we can live our best lives, but we've always existed. And we look at, you know, the native folk, two spirits and having 5 genders. We've always been around. So the idea of the media is just us being reflected. It's just us finding some normalcy. And I think that's what's really important. But your son looking at Teletubbies is not going to make him want to have a purse. You know, if they are inclined to do so, then that's what they like. For myself, I mean, like I said, there was no representation for trans women.
We're counting down. We're counting down. Gotta go. Oh, no.
Oh.
Don't worry. We'll come back. We'll come right back. I want to answer that question. One moment. We're going to come back.
Hey, Rebel.
Go Rebel with that last question. It's all good. It's all good, though.
Can you hear me?
Go back on it really quickly. Pink Talks featuring Lana. That was a good answer. Don't blame the media.
Can you hear me, Rebel?
Lana, you still with me?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry about that. They kicked us off.
No, you're fine.
We need more time on Instagram.
I know. Right?
Family, what's up? We're still here. So I wanted to know, you were answering the question. You were saying that it's not just the World Wide Web, you know, that trans has been here. The understanding of spirituality and duality within the body, within this prism, has been around for a long time. And your suggestion of what parents or how parents should educate their children is?
Yeah. It's twofold. One, I think, you know, and I'm going to call parents out and they can feel how they want to feel. I think that a lot of parents leave parenting to the TV, to the media, to other people, that they don't do the work and step up as parents themselves and teach their children. But that can also be problematic because there are some problematic people out in the world who are teaching their kids the wrong thing. I was homeschooled for 3 years by my grandparents, love them. But I also know there's people who are homeschooled who are being taught some really hateful stuff, and they go out into the world continuing that hateful ideology. So it's that, but then it's also the media is here as a mirror, as a reflection. What is happening in the world where we are and where we need to be? And as a parent, if your child is part of the LGBT community, you need to do the due diligence of educating yourself as how you can support your child. LGBT centers, you know, groups, support groups, media, like looking things up in ways that you can support your child, because a lot of people have that idea of this is a phase. You're going to grow past this. No, it's not a phase. I mean, sometimes there are phases. Sometimes you might be a tomboy at 5 and you become a super girly girl at 20. But I never strayed away from that feeling of feeling like a girl, to feeling like a woman, to being feminine. Like that feeling never went away. And from 3 years old coming out about it, to having a conversation with my aunt, who I told when I was 18 years old, for her to tell me that same story back, and I had made my transition, it signified that this was a real experience and how I felt was real. And I went through conversion therapy. You know, my family thought that, okay, we're going to use religion to fix you. And I went through conversion therapy. I was forced into Christianity and the church, and I'm a full-fledged woman, and I still love men, and nothing changed. And so I think we need to stop weaponizing tools of oppression. We need to stop trying to control our children with things like religion and putting fear into their heads and making them think that if you become this person, you're going to go to hell, you are going to suffer, you are going to catch some disease, that you are ungodly. And we just start to love them, and we start to support them and educate ourselves so that we can continue to support them. Because the idea of them being this horrible thing and you putting that onto your child adds even more pressure, because the statistics are shown. Suicide rates amongst the community, especially the trans community, is at the very least 41%. Homicide rates amongst the community, especially for trans women of color, are the highest out of any group in this country. We see on average about 25 trans women every year murdered, reported in America. South America, it's about 300, over 300 every year reported. And these are reports. A lot of times your murder goes by unreported because the media, the police, they put you in as male. They don't identify you as trans. You don't have an advocate to fight for you. And so when we're dealing with these high numbers of suicide and we're dealing with the high numbers of homicide, we don't need our families, and we're not in a position to have family oppose us and add more stress, add more opposition, and become our enemies. Like the world outside is our enemy. Sometimes we're enemies to ourselves. We're fighting that war in our head. And so we need you as family members to support us and to love us and to work through it. It's not easy. I understand that. But it's also not easy for us to go out into the world living our true selves and our true lives and having the world constantly beat us down and tell us you're crazy, you're wrong, you're not a girl, and that what you are is wrong. And then to come home and hear that again and personified, or to go visit, or to have a phone conversation, or to not even have a communication or relationship because they've cut you off, they've disowned you, they don't want anything to do with you. So I think it's very imperative that family don't become our bullies. Don't become your child's first bully.
I used to train perspective foster parents, and one of the things that we had to educate our foster parents is about not just trans, but just children in general, and helping them understand that when they bring them into their home, that they're not going to be just open to loving those parents because they've been abandoned in a sense, and they have this sense of abandonment. And so they're kind of always worried about, if I unpack everything of who I am symbolically to actually unpacking their clothes, that they will have to repack anyway. And so we tell them that a lot of times homeless people are not homeless because of drugs, because there are rehabilitation centers, so they have places to stay. It's not because of whatever they're using, whatever coping method that they're using is making them homeless. It's not that. It's because they lack support. And so what you're saying is so true. It just resonated with what I was used to teach in foster care. Yes, absolutely. We need the support of our family. And sometimes that can be hard on a family, especially if just being open to something that's different other than self, and educating and instilling the principle, not necessarily the sexuality, but the principle. I do agree with that, right? And I brought up the question about what do you say to families, because I have a family. I am a mother, and I'm a mother with the wildest ideas and thoughts. And so it's so refreshing to speak to you, because with people from 5%ers to Hotep to just very African, traditional and cultural strict about what it means to be a woman and a man. And me having Native heritage, I'm like, I get it. Just I'm gonna do a karma cleanse.
Right.
I may have been, a man in a past life, and I've had those experiences where I felt like a male's genital was kind of hovering in the space where my womb now is. And I went to what I call her my guide, and she shared with me, you have this past life still with you. It's time to cleanse and embrace this new body and embrace this new life. And it always made me question today, is that why I've had a cesarean twice with both my daughter and my son? And I look at both of them and I'm like, they're like the duality of who I am. And super grateful that I have a daughter and a son, because that's what I feel like I am on the inside as well, So kudos, just lots of love and peace to you, because many people don't have that thinking. It's wonderful to be heterosexual. It's wonderful to be homosexual, but ultimately it's your path, it's your life. And the only one that can ultimately judge you is the God within you. And to be an advocate for trans women, I think, is to speak about the experiences. And it's not to down anyone, but to educate people so that when they come across you, they're not putting their expectations on you. Right? And maybe we can all learn from this. It's not, don't walk around asking who's what or what is who or what. Those questions are irrelevant unless you're trying to create an intimate relationship with someone. What's relevant is how good is your heart? Are you a righteous being? Are you here to help us grow, versus are you here to do X, Y, and Z, whatever personal questions and ignorant questions people have. And it's ignorant because they're not asking because they want to grow and love more. They're asking because they want to figure out how they can judge you. And that can ultimately be just toxic for everyone on earth. So I do understand that. And I'm really glad that I was able to speak to you and that you were able to be honest. I know that sometimes being an advocate isn't easy, right? No matter what you're advocating for, because it kind of shakes up the conversation. You might believe in something, I might be on this end, but I'm going to be transparent with you. I don't know much about it, but I'm glad that I'm able to talk to you about it. And it is kind of scary in this world, because no matter if it's the LGBTQ community or the heterosexual community, kind of always battling to be heard, when it's just simple. It's simple. And how I see it to be simple is, do you love God? And not the God that we see in pictures, because I don't think God could ever really be reflected in one image. But do you love to love and exist and learn and explore and discover? Because if so, then you're alive. Otherwise, I don't know. You might be on The Walking Dead. I don't know. I don't know. Well, thank you. So I don't want to take up more of your time. I know it's been a fasting time for you.
Yes, I'll be able to eat.
Yes, get your meal on, get your grub on, girl. Do that. But thank you so much. We're here to support you here at Pink Talks, Pink NYC. Find your ID NYC. It's all about the identity, and identity just doesn't fall short to what you have between your legs. It's all about your heart. And so we're grateful for you, Lana. May you continue to rise. May God continue to hug you and kiss you. May your ancestors continue to be with you on your path. And may you continue to get the answers that you deserve and need as you continue on your growth path. Path of growth.
Thank you so much.
I'll talk to you soon. Everyone that's watching or will be watching afterwards, make sure you go ahead and follow Lana on all social media platforms. Is it Lana Patel XOX on all platforms, or just your first and last name?
Lana Patel. Well, look up Lana Patel. You'll normally find me, but it's Lana Patel XOXO, Lana Patel Beauty, or just Lana Patel.
Yes, you have so many platforms. That's right, girl. dominate all dimensions.
I'm trying.
You will do it. You will do it. With that being said, you just tuned in to Find Your ID NYC Pink Talks with your one and only goddess, Rebel Jones and Lana Patel. Make sure you go and support her. Make sure you support people all across the world because we're trying to unify ourselves and keep this beautiful earth that we call our home alive. Peace and love.